So normally I don't get that bad of fuel economy, but I had been running the car the last time it snowed really bad. I wanted to see how it ran, dealing with the snow and whatnot, with these snow tires. Actually, they're winter tires, they're studless. So they're really nice still, but they're not like gonna beat the crap out of themselves just for driving on pavement. They're great for when it's cold. And normally I wasn't the type of person to even drive rear-wheel drive cars in the snow or cold, because I mean, they suck. There's no sugarcoating it, there's no easy way to say it. Wheels are kind of cold, but there's no easy way to say it or sugarcoat it, really. So they're great, you know, every other season, but when it comes to cold, have a lot of issues. Now this car I've had too many issues, but then again, I haven't really tested it to its limits. I've driven probably about 15 miles each way, and that's about it. And the cold, so it hasn't been too bad for me. So even with winter tires, I mean, couldn't expect any less realistically, but even with winter tires, it drives great. Don't have any issues with it. I was a little concerned about really breaking loose because the tires are super cold. I haven't driven this car in about 2 days, but handles well. Handles great. I'm really tempted to take this somewhere where it's a little bit slushier, a little bit icier, to see how well the tires actually do. But it does concern me about losing traction and simply not getting it, so I need a wide enough space where I was comfortable enough. The unfortunate truth about this car is that it's very picky about what tires you use. So on the rears are super good for like 255s, I believe it's 40, 45, something like that. No problem, up to 20s. But unfortunately, the fronts, they need to be really narrow. And I suppose that's a lot of cars. But really, it's kind of obnoxious how picky it is. And I suppose I could change it, but then you'd lose a stance and whatnot. So again, I guess it's this type of car that's a little bit pickier. But I haven't had too many issues rubbing, but in terms of I just don't like, you know, risking anything, quite frankly, especially when you pay a lot of money for a car, a lot of money for the tires. The tires cost me, with the wheels, mind you, the wheels were super nice, and they were practically mint condition. They look brand new for A50. You can't touch that for brand new tires, brand new wheels, realistically for less than you know, $1,000 generally, but that's really conservative. I was looking at basically the cheapest, I think it was Michelin's or Bridgestone or whatever they were, in terms of winter tires, for I think it was breaking $1,200, and that wasn't including, that was just mounting, balancing, etc. It wasn't even including the TPMS sensors, which I just assumed they could transfer them. I do have the other tires, which were summer tires, and they were really awful. The fronts were great, Michelin Sport 4S. I think they were all seasons. Great tire regardless, and I would have used them no problem. But they were kind of old, and it looks like somebody literally got them off the shelf you know, or used tire place. So it was really shady. The rear tires were obviously smoked, and it kind of pissed me off because I specifically asked the dealership if they had if they were reliable, and that was my fault completely. I was just sick of the plane ride. I was ready to go. I was ready to drive the car because I knew I really wanted it. Mechanically, it looked great. So the only thing really left, realistically, was the tires, and you know, things that I couldn't see without a pre-purchase inspection. So I was like, whatever, I'll take it and take that. So this is normal. I fudged the recording, so I would have taken it earlier, but it's got a pretty good pickup, whether it's in sport or normal. I saw it has a snow mode, which is nice. Keeps the throttle down a little bit, so I could actually maneuver in snow if I need to. But anyway, as I was saying earlier, I took the car before the PPI. I decided to take that risk because everything looked good mechanically. There were some obvious issues with this car, but it wasn't like catastrophic. And so I figured I'd take the risk. And holy shit, it's a little windy. But I figured I'd take the risk and you know, drive it back home. And it was flawless coming back home, with the exception of the one headlight that was having issues, which was now repaired. I think it was just poorly hooked up a little bit. And they are aftermarket V-line headlights. So I mean, it comes with territory. Unfortunately, OEM, if I wanted to replace it, would be right around I'd say $1,200 for OEM headlights. And I just didn't want to go that route, so I figured me and my buddy replaced them, repaired them. One has condensation in them, so would I buy it again? Maybe I would take another risk, because I know they just came out not too long ago in relation to like aftermarket parts, I suppose. So they're really nice. They're great looking. They give it a modern look. So I'm not complaining too terribly much about the small issues that they have. But in terms of the rest of the car, there's a very slight modification at the axle. I wouldn't say it's the best. It looks like somebody took the initiative, quote unquote, and kind of did their own thing with the muffler. Removed the muffler, the OEM muffler, and installed some very, very large, I think they're like 4-inch, maybe bigger, maybe smaller, I don't know, but they're pretty large tips, and from a distance they look great, but then you get a little bit closer and they're not, I mean, they're a little uneven. They needed to be fixed when I purchased the car. Let's see. So I mean, there's very little, you know, little things going on with the car. The aftermarket trunk lid spoiler was, I mean, it looks great still, honestly, with it fading. I might wrap it, I might paint it, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I might just replace it entirely if it's more cost effective to do that. But there's just little things that were done to the car that I'm sure at one point looked great, but age and wear are definitely showing, given that this car has 200,000 miles. And it's extremely surprising because, I mean, it drives fantastic. You wouldn't think that it has 200,000 miles. But I mean, it's a Lexus. That's basically what I'm writing on. I'm cashing my check on the fact that it's a Lexus, and you know, I've never had problems with Toyotas, as I've stated before. And I mean, on the market, they're the most reliable vehicle, I think. I could be wrong now, but they were the most reliable vehicle for the longest time. Like any other vehicle, they're going to have issues, whatnot. The valley plate is a concern. But I mean, that's relatively small when you have cars like this in the same spectrum, let's say. We're talking M3s, we're talking Mercedes, AMGs, completely self-destructing in terms of the motor, and that's just not something that I wanted to risk or deal with. So I decided to take the risk with the Lexus instead, a high-mile Lexus, because I mean, the price range for an M3 would have been perfect for this, like, for the amount I paid for this car would have been perfect. But again, I knew it would have needed to work, and it would have been significantly more than this car. So I mean, once I got tires, I just need OEM suspension parts are kind of questionable. They, I'm sure, were perfect at one point, and I'm sure they're not far from what they were intended to do. Just get a very planted feel. But they're not great for commuting. They're not great for daily driving. They're not good for, you know, everyday use. If this car was driven purely on the track, I'm sure they would be fantastic. Yeah, really, it's a great car. It's a fast car, and it's a reliable car. And that's really hard. That's the love triangle that you try to get and you can't get with most cars. So so far I love it, and yeah, I'm gonna have to deal with it. One thing about this car that I really have to get used to is the fact that it's really hard not to speed in this car. Given the stance, given the way it drives, it just never feels like you're going over the speed limit, which is very untrue.